The village of Mbale was quiet and beautiful, surrounded by tall palm trees and the sound of birds that sang every morning. The air smelled of wet earth after the night rain, and the river near the edge of the village shone like silver when the sun rose. In this peaceful place lived a young girl named Amina. She was known for her gentle voice and her kind heart. Everyone in the village liked her, but her life at home was not easy. Amina's father was a farmer, a quiet man who loved his land. When Amina's mother died, he was lost in sadness for many months. The house felt empty, and even the goats seemed to bleat softly, as if they missed her too. After some time, her father married again, hoping to bring warmth back into their home. The woman he married was called Mama Kesa. She came from another village, and she brought with her 2 daughters, Lulu and Zara. At first, Amina hoped things would be good. She cleaned the house and cooked meals to welcome them. She smiled and tried to be friendly. But Mama Kesa and her daughters did not see her kindness. To them, Amina was just the daughter of another woman, not part of their true family. From the day they arrived, they treated her like a servant. Mama Kesa's voice was always sharp. Amina, fetch water. Amina, sweep the yard. Amina, where is the firewood? The girl worked from the moment the first rooster crowed until the stars came out. She fetched water from the far river, carried firewood on her back, washed clothes until her hands were sore, and still found time to feed the goats before sleeping. Lulu and Zara were nothing like her. They spent their days sitting under the mango tree, brushing their hair and gossiping with the other girls in the village. They wore colorful wrappers and beads around their necks. They would look at Amina and laugh loudly. "Look at her," Lulu said one morning, her voice full of pride. "Her feet are so dirty she could plant seeds in them." Zara giggled and added, "Her dress looks like it was made from old fishing nets." Amina heard them but said nothing. She only smiled, the kind of smile that hides pain behind peace. Sometimes, when they laughed too loudly, she whispered softly to herself, "The sun shines even on the poor." It was something her mother used to say before she passed. Those words reminded her to stay kind, even when others were cruel. When Amina's father was home, things were a little better. He would talk to her kindly and sometimes bring her roasted groundnuts from the market. But he spent most of his days on the farm or traveling to sell crops, leaving Amina alone with Mama Kesa and her daughters. And when he was gone, their unkindness grew stronger. Once, when Amina finished sweeping the yard, Lulu kicked dust back onto the clean ground and said, "You missed a spot." Amina quietly swept again. Another day, Zara spilled her porridge on purpose and ordered Amina to clean it up. "You are good for something, at least," she said with a cruel smile. The neighbors sometimes saw this and shook their heads. One old woman, Auntie Nandi, called Amina one day and gave her a piece of roasted yam. "My child," she said softly, "I see how they treat you. Don't let their words make your heart hard. One day, goodness will answer your silence." Amina thanked her and smiled, though tears burned in her eyes. That night, she sat outside, looking at the moon rising over the trees. The light touched her face gently, like a mother's hand. She missed her mother more than ever. "Mama," she whispered, "sometimes I feel invisible. But I will keep being kind. I know you would want that." The next morning began like every other day. Amina woke before the sun, filled the clay pots with water, and swept the yard. Lulu and Zara were still asleep, snoring softly. When they finally woke up, they called out, "Amina, where is our breakfast?" She had already cooked porridge and set it aside for them. They ate while she washed the pots. "You are so quiet," Lulu said mockingly. "Can you even talk, or are you just made to work?" Zara laughed. "She talks to goats, not people." Still, Amina did not answer. She remembered what her mother had taught her, that silence is stronger than anger. One afternoon, word spread through the village that a messenger from the royal palace was coming. Everyone rushed to the main square to hear the news. The people gathered under the big tree near the chief's hut, curious and excited. The sound of a horn echoed through the air as a man dressed in fine cloth rode in on a horse. "Hear me," the man announced. "The prince invites every young woman to the royal festival next moon. There will be music, dancing, and feasting. From among you, the prince will choose one to lead the women's guild, a place of honor and respect." The crowd cheered. The women clapped their hands, and the young girls whispered excitedly. Lulu and Zara's eyes shone with greed. "This is our chance," Lulu said. "The prince will surely notice us." Mama Kesa beamed proudly. "Yes, my daughters will shine brighter than anyone." But when Amina shyly asked if she could go too, they all laughed. "You," Zara said, raising her eyebrows. "In your old rags. You would shame us all." Lulu added, "Stay home, Amina. The prince is not looking for someone who smells like firewood." Mama Kesa nodded firmly. "You will stay. The festival is not for girls who sweep floors." Amina lowered her head. "As you wish, Mama Kesa," she said quietly. That night, when everyone else was asleep, Amina sat alone outside. The moon was full and bright. The wind moved gently through the tall grass, and the frogs croaked near the river. She felt the weight of sadness pressing on her chest, but she did not cry. She had cried too many times before. She looked up at the stars and whispered, "Maybe the prince would not notice me anyway. But I wish I could go, just to see the music and the dancing." A soft breeze brushed her face, warm and kind. For a moment, she thought she heard a whisper, faint, like someone calling her name from far away. She turned, but there was no one there. Only the baobab tree standing tall and silent in the moonlight. Amina smiled a little and whispered again to herself, "The sun shines even on the poor." Then she went inside, wrapped her old shawl around her shoulders, and lay down on her mat. She didn't know it yet, but her quiet heart was about to change her life. The next dawn would bring something she could never have imagined, a meeting by the river, a strange gift, and a path that would lead her far beyond the dust and laughter of her wicked stepsisters. The world around her slept peacefully, but the wind that passed through the trees carried the faint scent of something new, a promise waiting to begin. The sun had just begun to set over the village of Mbale. The air was cool, filled with the smell of roasted maize and evening fires. Amina was returning from the river after washing her stepsister's clothes. Her feet were sore from walking barefoot on the rocky path, and her hands were rough from scrubbing. She walked slowly, her eyes tired but peaceful. As she passed by the edge of the forest, she saw a dim light coming from under the tall baobab tree. Curious, she stepped closer. There sat Mama Nuru, the old village herbalist. Everyone knew her. Some feared her, others respected her. Her hut stood apart from the rest of the village, surrounded by herbs that filled the air with strange, sweet smells. People came to her when they were sick, or when their hearts were heavy with questions. Mama Nuru looked up from the bundle of herbs she was tying. Her eyes, though old, were sharp and kind. "Ah, Amina," she said in her calm, deep voice. "I have been waiting for you." Amina blinked, surprised. "For me, Mama Nuru? I did not know you wanted to see me." The old woman nodded slowly. "The wind carries many whispers, child. It tells me of sorrow, of kindness, and of things that must come to pass. Sit with me." Amina hesitated, but there was something gentle about the old woman's tone. She sat down on the grass. The smell of herbs and smoke filled her nose. Fireflies began to glow around them, lighting the space with soft golden flickers. Mama Nuru opened a small woven basket and took out a folded brown cloth. It looked old, simple, and worn. She placed it carefully in Amina's hands. "This belongs to you now," she said. Amina looked at it, confused. "It's just a piece of cloth, Mama." The old woman smiled faintly. "It is more than it seems. Wash this in the river at sunrise. Do it with a pure heart, and your true light will show." Amina looked down at the cloth again, feeling its rough texture. "But Mama, I don't understand. How can cloth show light?" Mama Nuru looked at her closely. "Not all light shines from fire or the sun, my child. Some light comes from within, from patience, from goodness, from faith. Go home now. Remember what I said. At sunrise, wash it in the river." Before Amina could ask more, Mama Nuru gathered her herbs and slowly disappeared into the darkness, her small lamp flickering in the night wind. Amina held the cloth close as she walked home. The moon rose above the hills, casting silver light on the path. She felt something strange, not fear, but a quiet hope. The cloth seemed to hum softly in her hands, as if it was alive. When she reached home, Lulu and Zara were sitting outside, laughing loudly as they braided each other's hair. Mama Kesa was counting beads, her sharp eyes watching Amina. "What's that in your hands?" Lulu asked. "An old cloth from Mama Nuru," Amina said softly. Zara laughed. "Of course. Only a poor girl like you would think a rag from that old woman could help you." Mama Kesa added coldly, "Don't bring nonsense into my house, Amina. We have no need for strange magic here." Amina nodded quietly and slipped inside. She hid the cloth under her sleeping mat. That night, she lay awake listening to the crickets and the soft breathing of her stepsisters. She wondered what Mama Nuru's words meant. What did she mean by true light? When the first cock crowed and the sky turned pale with dawn, Amina rose quietly. The house was still dark, and everyone was asleep. She took the cloth and walked toward the river. The air was cool, and mist floated over the water. She knelt by the riverbank and dipped the cloth into the clear stream. The water shimmered, and for a moment she thought she saw her reflection smile back at her, not tired, but glowing. She rubbed the cloth gently, and suddenly it began to shine. The plain brown fabric turned golden, soft as sunlight. The glow grew stronger until it wrapped around her like a warm embrace. When she lifted it from the water, it was no longer rough or old. It had become a beautiful golden dress, simple but bright, as if made from the first light of morning. Amina gasped and looked around, but no one was there. The river rippled quietly, reflecting the rising sun. She pressed the dress against her heart, whispering, "Thank you, Mama Nuru." She carried it home carefully, holding it close so her stepsisters wouldn't see. But as soon as she entered the yard, Lulu and Zara spotted her. "What are you hiding?" Lulu demanded. "Show us!" Zara shouted, running up to her. Amina tried to hide the dress behind her, but they grabbed it from her hands. The golden fabric shimmered in the sunlight, and both girls' eyes widened. "Where did you get this?" Lulu cried. "You stole it." "I did not steal it," Amina said quietly. "Mama Nuru gave it to me." Zara threw her head back and laughed. "That old woman again. You really think this silly rag will make you special?" Mama Kesa came out of the house and stared at the dress. Her eyes narrowed. "Amina, you are playing with things you don't understand. Leave that nonsense. You are not going to the festival." "But Mama," Amina said softly, "Mama Nuru told me to wash it. She said my light would show." "Your light?" Lulu mocked. "The only light you'll ever see is from the fire when you cook our dinner." They laughed again, the sound sharp and cruel. But Amina did not reply. She folded the dress carefully and placed it inside her basket. All day, her stepsisters talked about the festival. They tried on their clothes, combed their hair, and polished their beads. Mama Kesa helped them choose what to wear. The house was full of laughter and excitement. Amina sat quietly by the fire, mending an old basket. Her heart ached, but she remembered Mama Nuru's words, "Do it with a pure heart." She looked at the golden cloth and smiled softly. "Maybe it's not for them to understand," she whispered. As the sun began to set, Lulu and Zara dressed in bright colors and left for the palace with Mama Kesa. The sound of drums echoed in the distance. Amina watched them go, then stood up slowly. She opened her basket and lifted the golden dress. It shimmered in the fading light like fire caught in water. She put it on. It fit perfectly, soft and light against her skin. She looked at her reflection in the pot of water near the fire and gasped. She looked radiant. Not like a princess, but like herself, bright, calm, and alive. Without another thought, she picked up her small shawl and walked quietly toward the road that led to the palace. The moon rose high above her, and the wind played gently with her hair. Every step she took made the dress glimmer, as though the stars themselves were following her. Behind her, the village slept in silence. Ahead, music floated through the night air, the sound of drums, laughter, and life. Amina's heart beat fast, but she walked on, her feet steady, her eyes full of quiet courage. For the first time in her life, she was not just the girl who swept floors. She was Amina, the girl who dared to believe in her own light. And so, with the golden dress shining softly in the moonlight, she made her way to the palace festival, where fate waited for her among the drums and stars. The palace festival was the grandest event Mbale had ever seen. The road leading to the royal courtyard was lined with glowing lanterns, and drums echoed through the night like the heartbeat of the land itself. The smell of roasted meat and sweet cakes floated through the air, and laughter rose above the music. People came from every nearby village, dressed in bright colors and fine clothes. The sound of dancing feet mixed with the soft singing of women as they moved gracefully under the moonlight. Lulu and Zara arrived early, their clothes heavy with beads and shiny cloth. They held their heads high, smiling proudly as they pushed through the crowd. Mama Kesa followed close behind, fanning herself and whispering loudly, "Make sure the prince sees you first. Remember to smile, my daughters." Lulu twirled, her bangles jingling. "I will dance in front of him," she said. "He won't be able to look away." Zara giggled. "When he sees my necklace, he will surely think I am royal." They were too busy showing off to notice the quiet figure walking behind them, Amina. She wore her simple golden dress, and though it wasn't covered in jewels, it glowed softly under the lantern light. Her hair was tied neatly with a small ribbon, and her face shone with calmness and grace. Every step she took was light, almost as if she were walking on air. As she entered the courtyard, the music seemed to soften. People turned to look at her. For a moment, all sound faded, and even the drummers paused. The golden light from her dress caught the eyes of everyone present. Lulu froze, her smile fading. Zara's mouth opened in shock. "That's Amina," she hissed under her breath. "How did she get here?" Mama Kesa's fan dropped from her hand. "No, it cannot be." Amina didn't look at them. She stood quietly near the edge of the dance circle, watching the dancers spin and clap to the rhythm. Her golden dress shimmered with every flicker of firelight, and her soft smile drew more attention than all the perfume and beads in the courtyard. Up on the raised platform sat Prince Tariq. He was tall and kind-eyed, dressed in a deep blue robe with gold embroidery. He watched the dancers politely, but his mind was far away. Many women had come forward, all beautiful, all eager to impress, but none had touched his heart. He had seen pride, greed, and vanity, but no kindness. Then, as the crowd parted for the next dance, he saw her. The girl in gold. She stood still among the noise and movement, her hands folded gently before her. There was something quiet but powerful about her presence. The prince leaned forward, his curiosity awakening. "Who is that?" he asked one of his guards. "I do not know, your highness," the guard replied. "She came alone." The prince rose from his seat and walked down the steps toward her. The crowd gasped softly, moving aside as he approached. Lulu and Zara stared, their faces full of disbelief. Amina bowed her head respectfully when the prince stopped before her. "Who are you?" Prince Tariq asked, his voice calm and warm. Amina lifted her eyes and met his gaze. "Just a girl from Bale, your highness," she said gently. The prince smiled faintly. "You shine as though the sun itself follows you. Tell me, what brings you here tonight?" Amina thought for a moment before answering. "I came to see the joy of my people, to hear the drums and the songs. I wanted to feel part of something greater than sorrow and work." Her words were simple, but they carried truth. The prince's eyes softened. "You speak like someone who knows pain and still chooses kindness." Amina smiled. "I believe every woman can help build a better village, with kindness, patience, and courage. That is what my mother taught me." For a long moment, the prince said nothing. The drums began again, slow and steady, and the wind lifted the hem of Amina's golden dress. It shimmered like water under sunlight. "Your heart speaks louder than beauty," he finally said. "And that is rare." Around them, whispers spread. People began to murmur about the girl in gold who spoke with the prince. Lulu clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. "It should have been me," she whispered to Zara. "I am prettier than her." Zara's eyes burned with jealousy. She tricked him somehow. That dress, there must be witchcraft in it. But Amina paid them no mind. She was lost in the moment, her heart beating softly in her chest. The prince gestured toward the dancers. "Would you join them?" Amina hesitated. "I don't know the royal dances, your highness." He chuckled lightly. "Then let the drums guide you." The drummers struck the skins again, their rhythm rising like thunder through the courtyard. Amina stepped forward, her bare feet touching the cool earth. Slowly, she began to move with the music. Her golden dress swirled as she spun, and the crowd clapped to the rhythm. Her movements were simple, but graceful, full of life, full of truth. The prince watched, completely entranced. Never had he seen someone dance with such honesty. It was as if the music came from within her. When the drums finally stopped, the courtyard burst into applause. The people cheered, calling out her name, though many did not even know who she was. Lulu and Zara tried to join in, but their laughter sounded forced. "She only dances like that because she wants attention," Lulu muttered bitterly. But everyone ignored them. The prince took Amina's hand and led her to a table of food. "You must be hungry," he said kindly. Amina blushed. "Thank you, Your Highness." They sat together, talking quietly as the celebration continued around them. The prince asked her about her life, and Amina told him of her village, her father, and her work. She didn't hide her hardships, but she spoke without bitterness. She told him about Mama Nuru, the wise old woman, and how kindness could bloom even in sorrow. Prince Tariq listened closely. He had spoken to many women before, but none had ever spoken with such honesty and warmth. "You remind me," he said softly, "that true strength comes from humility." Amina smiled, her eyes gentle. "My mother used to say that kindness is a seed. It grows slowly, but when it blooms, it feeds everyone around it." The prince was silent for a moment, then nodded. "The kingdom needs more hearts like yours." The night grew deep, and stars filled the sky like scattered diamonds. The festival continued, but the prince and Amina sat quietly, watching the fires burn low. The air was calm, and a soft wind rustled through the palm leaves. When the drums began their final song, Amina stood up. "I should go now," she said softly. The prince looked surprised. "Will I see you again?" Amina hesitated, then smiled. "If it is meant to be, the wind will guide the way." Before he could speak, she turned and walked into the night. The golden dress shimmered until she disappeared into the shadows. The prince stood for a long time, looking toward the road where she had gone. Then he whispered to himself, "A girl of gold, with a heart brighter than her dress." And though the music played on and the laughter continued, his thoughts were only of her, the humble girl who had walked into his world and left it glowing with quiet light. The moon was still high when Amina reached the edge of the village. The night was quiet except for the chirping of crickets and the rustling of palm leaves. The golden dress shimmered faintly as she walked, though its light grew softer with each step. By the time she reached her small home, it had faded into a gentle glow like candlelight. Amina slipped inside quietly, careful not to wake anyone. She folded the dress and laid it on her sleeping mat. Her heart was still full of the music and kindness she had felt at the festival. For the first time in a long while, she smiled before falling asleep. But morning brought stormy voices. Lulu's scream pierced the air. "You embarrassed us, Amina!" she shouted, bursting into the yard. Zara followed her, her face twisted with anger. "How dare you go to the festival? You had no right to be there." Mama Kesa came out of the house, her eyes dark with fury. "What have you done, girl?" she demanded. "The whole village saw you in that golden thing. Everyone is talking about how you shone brighter than my daughters." Amina stood quietly, holding her hands together. "I did not mean to shame anyone, Mama Kesa. I only went to watch the music." "Lies!" Lulu spat. "You spoke with the prince. Everyone saw it. Do you think you can fool him with your fake dress?" Zara crossed her arms. "That glow must have been a trick. Maybe Mama Nuru gave you some kind of spell." Amina shook her head gently. "It was not magic. It was kindness. Kindness." Mama Kesa snapped. "Kindness will not feed you. You should have stayed where you belong, sweeping floors." Lulu pointed at her. "You made us look like fools. The prince didn't even notice us because of you." Amina's heart ached, but she stayed calm. "I am sorry if I caused trouble," she said softly. "I never wanted to harm anyone." But her apology only made them angrier. Mama Kesa raised her hand as if to strike her, but then stopped. Instead, she hissed, Go to the river. Wash the clothes and stay there until I call you." Amina nodded and walked away, her eyes lowered. As she carried the basket of clothes, the villagers whispered as she passed. Some smiled kindly at her, others only stared, full of curiosity. "She is the girl from the festival," one woman said. "The one who spoke with the prince." "I heard her dress was made of sunlight," another whispered. Amina heard them but kept walking. She knelt by the river and began washing the clothes, letting the cold water soothe her sore hands. As she worked, she thought about the prince, not because he was royal, but because he had listened to her words. "Your heart speaks louder than beauty," he had said. Those words made her chest feel warm again. By the time she returned home, the sun had climbed high. The air was heavy with the smell of cooking stew. Mama Kesa and her daughters were sitting outside, looking angry and restless. "There's no food for you," Mama Kesa said without looking up. "You can eat when you learn to behave." Amina quietly went to her small corner and sat down. She didn't argue or complain. She took a sip of water and closed her eyes, resting her tired body. The rest of the day passed slowly. The house felt tense and strange. Even Lulu and Zara were quieter than usual. They whispered together, their faces worried. Amina didn't know why until, just before sunset, the sound of drums echoed from the distance. Not festival drums this time, but the deep, steady beat of royal guards approaching. The whole village came out to see what was happening. Dust rose as the guards on horses rode into the square, their armor shining in the evening light. The leader, a tall man with a blue sash across his chest, dismounted and held up his hand. "By the order of Prince Tariq," he announced loudly, "we are searching for the girl who wore the golden dress at the festival. The prince wishes to see her." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Everyone began whispering. Lulu and Zara exchanged quick glances. Mama Kesa's eyes widened, but then she stood tall and smoothed her wrapper. "You are looking for my daughters," she said proudly, pushing Lulu and Zara forward. "They went to the festival. I am sure you mean one of them." The guard looked at the sisters, then frowned. "Which of you wore the golden dress?" Lulu smiled nervously. "It was me," she said quickly. Zara nodded eagerly. "Yes, her." The light from the torches made her shine. Everyone saw it. The guard studied them for a moment, then shook his head. The prince said the girl's dress glowed like dawn itself, and her eyes were as calm as still water. "That was not what we saw at the palace." Mama Kesa laughed nervously. Perhaps the prince was mistaken. After all, many girls were there. From behind the crowd, a soft voice spoke. "It was not them." Everyone turned. Amina stood at the edge of the crowd, holding a folded brown cloth in her hands. The villagers murmured, recognizing her at once. The guard stepped forward. "Who are you?" "I am Amina," she said quietly. "And this is the cloth that became the golden dress." She held it up, and as the last rays of the setting sun touched it, the fabric began to shimmer. The brown color melted away, replaced by the same soft golden glow that had lit the festival night. The crowd gasped. The guards bowed deeply. "You are the one the prince seeks," the leader said. Mama Kesa's mouth fell open. Lulu and Zara stood frozen, their faces pale and red with shame. The villagers began whispering excitedly. "I told you she was special," one woman said. "The girl of gold," another cried. The guards stepped closer to Amina. "The prince sent us to bring you to the palace," the leader said respectfully. "He wishes to speak with you in person." Amina looked down at the glowing cloth in her hands. Her heart beat fast. "May I take a moment to speak to my family first?" she asked softly. The guard nodded. Amina turned to Mama Kesa, Lulu, and Zara. They could not meet her eyes. Lulu's lips trembled, and Zara looked at the ground. "I did not mean to bring shame to you," Amina said gently. "I only wanted to live kindly, as my mother taught me." Mama Kesa's voice was faint. "Amina, But she couldn't finish her sentence. Amina smiled sadly. "You don't have to say anything. I forgive you." Then she turned back to the guards. "I am ready." As they led her away, the villagers clapped softly. Some called out blessings. The air felt different, lighter, hopeful. The evening breeze brushed Amina's face, carrying with it the smell of dust and river water. Lulu and Zara watched silently as she disappeared down the road, her golden cloth shining faintly in the twilight. For the first time, they felt not anger, but regret. Mama Kesa sat down slowly, her eyes wet with tears. "She was the light all along," she whispered. The drums of the royal guards faded into the distance. Night settled over the village, and the stars began to appear one by one. The people would talk about this day for years to come, the day the quiet girl who was mocked for her kindness was chosen by the prince himself. And in the soft glow of the moon, the golden cloth's light could still be seen faintly in the dust where Amina had walked, as if the earth itself was proud to carry her footsteps. The palace of Mbale was a place of wonder. Its tall walls shone white under the sun, and its gates were carved with the stories of the kingdom's past. Birds nested in the rafters, and the smell of sweet flowers floated through the air. When Amina arrived with the royal guards, the servants and guards turned to look at her. She wore her golden cloth again, and though it glowed softly, the real light seemed to come from her calm face. She had never seen such beauty before. The palace garden was full of bright flowers, and fountains sang softly as water danced into clear pools. The paths were made of smooth red stones that shone like fire under the sunlight. For a moment, Amina stood still, afraid to move too quickly, afraid she would wake up from a dream. The guard led her to the main hall, where Prince Tariq waited. He stood at the top of the steps, dressed in deep blue, his crown simple but shining. When he saw her, his face lit up. "You came," he said warmly. Amina bowed. "The guards brought me, Your Highness." The prince smiled. "I would have come myself if I could. Please, come closer." She walked slowly up the marble steps until she stood before him. Around them, the courtiers watched silently. Some whispered to one another, wondering who this girl was who glowed like the morning sun. "I wanted to thank you," the prince said. "Your words at the festival stayed with me. You spoke of kindness, of building a better village. I realized that is what my kingdom needs, not more riches or power, but hearts like yours." Amina looked down, her cheeks warm. "I only spoke what I believe, Your Highness. Every small act of goodness helps the world grow." Prince Tariq nodded. "That is wisdom, and wisdom is rare." He turned to the court. "This is Amina of Mbale, the girl who reminded us what true strength means. From today, she will lead the women's guild of our land, to teach, to guide, and to bring peace among our people." Gasps and murmurs filled the hall. Some clapped their hands, others bowed their heads. Amina stood still, unable to speak. Her heart raced. "Your Highness," she said quietly, "I do not know if I deserve such honor." The prince smiled gently. "You do. The people need someone who leads with humility. You are that person." He motioned for an attendant to bring a necklace made of cowrie shells and gold. He placed it around her neck himself. "Wear this as a sign of your place in the guild. It is not a crown, but a symbol, a reminder that leadership is service." Tears filled Amina's eyes. "Thank you, my prince. I will do my best." From that day, her life changed. She was given a small house near the palace garden, where she met with women from every part of the kingdom. Some came to learn weaving, some came for advice, and others simply came to listen to her stories. Amina never acted proud. She treated everyone with warmth, from the youngest servant to the queen herself. Under her care, the women's guild grew strong. They worked together to teach young girls how to read, to grow food, and to heal with herbs. The village of Mbale flourished, and soon, other villages followed their example. The prince often visited her gatherings, listening to her gentle words and watching how people smiled around her. One day, as Amina sat weaving baskets under a mango tree, a messenger arrived from her village. He bowed deeply and said, "Your stepsisters and stepmother are here. They wish to see you." Amina looked up, surprised. "Bring them in," she said softly. Moments later, Mama Kesa, Lulu, and Zara entered the courtyard. They looked tired and nervous. Their bright clothes were faded, and their eyes were full of shame. Mama Kesa held her daughter's hands tightly as they knelt before Amina. "My child," Mama Kesa said, her voice trembling, "we have wronged you deeply. We mocked you, made you suffer, and yet you have brought honor to our family. Please, forgive us." Lulu bowed her head. "We were jealous," she whispered. Zara's eyes filled with tears. "We did not see your goodness. We see it now." For a moment, the courtyard was silent except for the sound of the fountain. Amina looked at them, the same faces that had once laughed at her, now broken with regret. Her heart ached, but not with anger. She remembered her mother's words, "Kindness is a seed." She stood and walked toward them. "Please rise," she said softly. They looked up, uncertain. Amina smiled gently. "I forgive you." Mama Kesa began to cry. Lulu and Zara wiped their tears. "You forgive us?" Lulu asked, her voice small. "Yes," Amina said. "Hatred only makes hearts heavy. Let kindness guide you now. There is still time to do good." Mama Kesa pressed her hands together. "You are too kind, Amina. We do not deserve this." Amina shook her head. "We all deserve a chance to change. Go back home and help those who need you. That will be your way of saying sorry." The three women nodded, tears falling freely now. Amina called her servants and gave them baskets of food and cloth for her stepfamily to take home. "Start again," she said gently. "Let your hearts be light." When they left the palace, they turned back once to see her standing there, smiling in the sunlight. They bowed deeply before continuing down the path. Word of Amina's forgiveness spread quickly through the land. People spoke of her kindness in the markets, in the fields, and in the royal court. Mothers told their daughters her story as they pounded yam in the evening. As months passed, peace began to settle across Mbale. Villages stopped fighting over land. Families helped each other rebuild homes after the heavy rains. Women worked together, growing more crops than ever before. Everywhere Amina went, people greeted her with warm smiles and blessings. Even the prince often said, "It was her heart, not her dress, that changed our kingdom." One afternoon, as the sun dipped low over the hills, Amina walked through the palace garden alone. The flowers swayed in the wind, and she could hear children laughing in the distance. She paused under the baobab tree, the same kind that had stood near her old home, and closed her eyes. She thought about Mama Nuru, the wise old woman who had given her the cloth that started it all. She wished she could thank her again. She could almost hear Mama Nuru's voice in the breeze. "Your light was always there, my child. You only needed to see it." Amina smiled, her heart full. The wind brushed her face softly, carrying the scent of earth and flowers. From that day on, whenever the wind blew through the trees, the people whispered her name, Amina, the girl who was once mocked for her dust but became the pride of her village. They told her story to remind their children that kindness is stronger than cruelty, and that even a quiet heart can change the world. And when the moon rose over the land, shining down on the fields of Mbale, it glowed with the same gentle gold as Amina's dress, the light of a heart that never stopped believing in goodness. The end.